Hi friends! Today we are diving into the newly released Melt Cosmetics Gemini II. I have a very funny history with Melt Cosmetics. I do recognize the inconsistencies found in the eyeshadow palettes, not so much the stacks, but the eyeshadow palettes. Some are hits, some are misses. Some people love them, some people can't stand them. It's a eclectic response when it comes to Melt eyeshadow palettes. But when Kara from Beauty and the Frizz, hi Kara, sent me the post about Gemini 2 and the fact that they were re-releasing the first Gemini, the palette that started it all, with the bundle deal, 20% off. It was 20% off whether it be the bundle or individual palettes, I believe, with the code found in the email. I had to get both. I needed to see if there were any differences. I'm sure there aren't, but I am a sucker for, of course, the updated packaging with the bigger rose illustration and the metallic finishes on the edges of the petal, and then you have the embossing on the shadows, which I know when I use it, it won't last forever, but it's so pretty. And if it's your first time here, hi, I'm Alicia. I'm an online coach. I specialize in flexibility, but I also love to talk about the makeup, specifically eyeshadow palettes, whether to review them or use them for tutorials. I love eyeshadow. So I thought, why don't we get into the product details first, the swatches, 1 or 2 looks depending on, because I do have a class at 2. And if my energy seems like a little low, it is. I trained this morning, I taught, I had a bit of a long morning already, and I saw the package arrive. It did when I was at Bayes and wanted to take advantage of the time. So I'm all good. It's all fine. Energy comes in ebbs and flows. I'm on a low ebb right now, but we're gonna make this happen, fam. Here is the outer packaging, Gemini 2. I adore this illustration. It's rose with bits of maroon and burgundy. It's just lovely. Not that it's super important, but this is the outer packaging, which I think very clever. It has the embossing on the box and I guess this is a holographic finish on the lettering. A 12-month suggested shelf life, made in the USA, total net worth of 21.06 grams of product. I know this is really random, but I just started Spy Family and I thought of Anya when I saw the palette. I love her so much. This retails for $58. You get 10 shadows. If it's your first time encountering Melt Cosmetics, they are an indie brand and they tend to be more expensive simply because I think of manufacturing costs and all that jazz. But you do get a lot of product, and if the price is a concern for you, yes, there are other eyeshadow palettes out there, but I think Melt Cosmetics is unique with their color curation, how they put together different hues and such that really stand them apart from others. 10 brand new shades of matte, dabs of shims, rich sultry rose tones that you can blend impeccably with deep wines and moss tones. As we will see, they did include some greens in here, which I thought was quite clever, and probably what I think a lot of people wanted Pat to do with Utopian Dream. Or maybe she loves rose and pink so much she'll never deviate from that color story, but she kind of did with Bridgerton too, including Forever Charm with the whatever. I'm just thinking out loud, excuse me. Here is the inside of the palette. Again, you have the same embossing on the eyeshadow pans we saw from Gemini 2, and wonderful that Melt included the greens here. I think this encompasses a complete story of rose. Not only do you have the wine pink rose colored petals, but you also have the stem, the thorns, and the leaves, which I think contributes to what a rose is color-wise, not just the shades of the petals, but the entirety of the flower. 2 shims, as they said, 8 mattes. These are lovely. I'm just looking at it now. It definitely, I feel it looks more beautiful in person. I feel you can see the rose tones more in person than how it looks online. Bella, a pale peachy, ooh, that's pretty. Oh, that's pretty. It looks more coral in person. I do have my lights on, but that's a lovely shade. Ladylike. Looking at a medium rose toned. Ooh, it's like a terracotta rose, like a burnt peachy rose. Sweetheart, I feel so bad ruining these pans, but you know what is for the swatch. A deeper toned, oh, that's lovely. These feel very soft. Let's see how they blend on the lids later on. Gemelas. Gemelas. I'm just gonna say gemelas. It might be wrong. A deeper tone rose, has a little more brown in there. Lovely. Lovesick. A wine matte. Ooh, we got Shmoo, the first metallic of the palette. Looks to be a burgundy. Ooh, that's promising. Has nice stick and adherence. Very smooth. Nice shine. That color is pretty. It's a pretty burgundy. LX Queen. Deep rich maroon. Oh, that's nice. Mateo, second metallic. This time is a moss green. Much better than the ones found in Gemini 1. We shall see how those are. I'm actually quite interested to find out if they stick more or they're more of like that. Hello words. The texture's not the same, it's not as tight, it's more scatter effect. Boy mum. Going now more into the brown neutrals. That's like a mossy brown. And lastly, we have Almond Eyes, which is more of a moss green. So here are all the shades from Gemini 2. They feel lovely. I can't wait to actually dive in, but I briefly wanted to check with Gemini 1 and see how these two shades feel. This is Gemini and Goals. Gemini and Goals. Not bad. Gemini has a little bit more chunk, but I feel this did not perform the same in the first palette. Well, I have to be careful because unfortunately my Goals cracked here, so I cannot completely lift it up, but I do want to swatch the old Gemini from palette number 1. And do keep in mind this is an older palette, perhaps time affected the wear, but this is the first Gemini and this is the second. I feel there's more tightness and adherence to the metallic found in the new Gemini. I'm not sure if that will change as I use it more often, but it's creamier and I also feel shinier. There's just a stronger shift here than found in the first metallic in the first palette. And I would also say a smoother consistency found in the newer palette as well. Let me know if you bought the new Gemini and you compared it to your old one. I would assume the mattes are the same, just full bodied all around, very soft, hardy on the application. Yeah, I think those are pretty consistent. But let's get into Gemini 2. I can't wait to swap these colors on the lids. And another reason why I didn't get Patrick Ta's Major Dimension 2, in addition to my Linda Hallberg haul, I also bought this. So there was a lot of rose going on in my most recent purchases, and to buy Major Dimension 2 would have been a lot. Hope you understand. With all product details and swatches out the way, why don't we come in a little closer? That's enough. I have the Linda primer on. I've been using it ever since I received it and I quite like it. Let's see how it does with Melt Cosmetic shadows. And because Melt mattes have some pushback, I will use a Psycho Goat hairbrush. This is the Bristles Beauty E01. It's slightly stiffer than a lot of my brushes that take on a similar design. I like that, especially with this type of a formula, so I could push back to the shadows as well. Ladylike. Let's see how this looks. I'm gonna throw that, so many sirens today. I'm gonna throw that across the crease. A lovely color to wear solo in that is not too warm. It just gives a nice delivery of rosiness, rosy peachiness. Yeah. Let's do Sweetheart on the next eye solo. This has a lot more pink, but the color is still soft, and I think great to wear on its own, not only through the crease, but on the lid as well. And this brush in particular is great because it's soft, but is a little more stiff than, let's say, my Refer 16 or even my Hakuro J5522. One of those brushes. I think because this might have a little more bristle in it, so it pushes the product well across the lids. This is just how the mattes look. I'm loving it already. Let's try gemelas on the outer V, right on Ladylike. Okay, something I like to investigate is how well these deeper mattes stick on a lighter one, because at times I feel they kind of disappear and they don't create a smooth gradient. This seems to be working out quite nicely. It's sticking, it doesn't look patchy or uneven. I'm taking my blender now, just throwing it across the edge here. Not too bad. And I like to use a shader so I can plop down the majority of the color on first. So there could be nice stick there. It shows up. And then you can take more shadow or just the leftover on the brush to smooth the edges. Well, that's very nice. We could go in with Lovesick, or we can go to LX Queen. I think I want to do LX Queen. I'm very curious as to how this is going to look. Taking my Koyuro Yushiki brush, a unique shade, but I think this will be ideal for placing the color right on the outer V. And because the brush shape is very tapered, is optimal to fit here on this part of my lid without the shadow traveling too high. Well, that's pretty. I'm very happy to report that this shade looks like how it does in pan. One of my critiques with, I believe it was She's in Parties. The darker plum in there, when you apply it on the lid, it loses its identity a little bit. It doesn't look plum, but this, however, I think still looks pretty deep maroon to me. Taking a little bit of Bella just now on the edges here, just to further blur. LX Queen on the outer part of my lower lash line, and again, great tapered brush shape to just keep the shadow in tight to the outer 3/4 and also through the crease, you know, because of the pointed tip. Not bad. Okay, doing the same thing with gemelas, but now on the outer lid for this eye. Got a little crazy here, totally fine. As you know, eraser time, just so we can clean up around the edges here. Better. All right, what can we do on the lid? Well, I definitely want to do Schmood, because to pair it with the darker thing going on this side, we could do several things. We could do Schmood on both. We could even do Bella on the lid, or just go completely matte. I'm going to pick this up with my Pine Squirrel brush, and like I said, I'm going to go on this side. Very good. Nice smooth application. If you want, you could also wet it, but I'm using my finger just so it could be a little more even. Oh, that's pretty. This is a pretty metallic. It's like almost duochrome in that the base is copper, but it looks overall like burgundy. It's a great color to rely on for smokiness. That's not just your typical bronzy brown. It has a little more character. I think it elevates the look, especially if you want to keep it smoky. Now, one thing here, unfortunately, there is no highlight shade, but that's not a deal breaker for me. I have so much makeup, highlighters and whatever, that I can dip out and add something here. For instance, I do have my Linda Infinity Glam palette. This is a great complement to Gemini 2. I'm going to slap on a little bit of dust here, which is, it's like a slightly opalescent, but maybe a little bit of Comet. Perhaps that will be a better pairing. I like that. You know, I think I want to commit to the matte route. So let's take Bella and place it over the majority of the lid, and I'll do so in a tapping fashion here, because then it goes into, is it Sweetheart? I forgot. No, that wasn't the color, but it's pretty. It's pretty. Having Bella as the standout lid color here, I think was a good way to go. A little bit of Ladylike just through the crease to bring those shades together. And actually I'm throwing in my lash just all the way across the lower lash line. That's a lot of haze. You can use a smaller brush to keep the color tighter so it doesn't drop as low. But I like that. And why not? Because I have it, I am going in with Gemini from the new palette and using this shade as the inner corner highlight of choice. Not bad at all. Or you can dip in and use a lighter matte if you wanted to completely devote the look to all matte shadows. That's something you can do as well. I had the Suqqu summer blush on, which I also have to do a video about, and it was sent to me. Thank you to the Suqqu team for being so generous. I'm gonna slap on a little bit of Day since it's peachier, just so I can bring everything together. Throw on some Infinity highlighter as well. Okay. So this is how everything looks with just mascara, but I do want to throw on lashes to that with the look. And here is the final look from round number 1. I'm quite pleased with how both these eyes turned out. Equally so about the quality. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, there have been inconsistencies with Melt Cosmetic palettes, but I had a feeling they would nail this one. Typically, rosy coral tones do well formula-wise, and to see the majority of that color exist in Gemini 2, I thought it was going to be a hit, but I'm very happy with the metallics. It's not so much their shiny dazzle, but they have like this burnished shine to them that I feel is a nice escape from your typical shiny metallic. Although I would recommend you wet it so you can get a more consistent lay down of the coppery shine that exists in that shadow. But the peachiness of the mattes, and you can use that color as your standout lid shade just to shake things up. Again, the overall hue of these colors is gorgeous, completely gorgeous. I'm a sucker for roses, and I'd rather buy the Gemini palette over Patrick Ta's palette. And I know that's crazy because, listen, that's nothing against Patrick Ta's formula. I have Major Dimension 1 and I think it's fabulous. But to have the greens in here as well, and yes, Major Dimension 2, they have the lighter metallic, so with the cream shadows, I get it. There's more versatility formula-wise in that palette, but I think the hues in here are pretty special in terms of just the rosiness, but there's a little bit of coral, which reminded me of 27. But I think 27 leans overall coral like taupe. This is one of my most favorite melt palettes ever. I know it wasn't as popular as Gemini, but 27 has one of the most unique color stories out of my entire collection. And anytime I slap these shades on, oof, it's beautiful. All right. I think we're good with this round. Let's move on to the next. Maybe we'll combine a little bit of the roses and the mossy greens. I'll see you back here in a minute. Round 2. Curious to combine the greens with the roses and see what happens there. I know many have tried rose to the crease and Mateo over the lid. Well, let's just do almond eyes first. Let's see how this goes. Because these greens, as experienced from Melt number 1, they could be a little tricky, and already there's some skippage, but again, why I insist on using a brush that's a little stiffer than usual, because the rose tones are easier to blend. They're a little smoother and they don't take as much work. Fine, right? Although I know some people are like, listen, I don't got time to do all that blending. All right, Alicia, I get it. But if you insist on using this palette, then definitely use a goat brush, because yeah, you'll be probably here for a bit. Boy, mom, now on the outer V in the same fashion I did in round number 1. Just tappity tap tap. That's pretty good stick on top of almond eyes. It didn't disappear, didn't kind of just blur into nothingness. Yeah, take a little bit of that on the outer lower lash line. Not bad. Mateo now with my finger, because you know what, just the simple route here. I want to see all these greens together. Okay, that's very pretty. As you see, super smoky. I mean, Just smoothing it out here on the innermost corner. I'm gonna slap on a little bit of Mateo here on the inner lid, or what am I saying? Anatomy, lower lash line. Use a much smaller brush to get a cleaner application. There was a little bit of fallout from Mateo. It has nice stick, but there are shimmies in here where they will fall on the lid for sure. A little more crumbly. There's a little more crumbliness. So the thing with Melt Metallics, even though these are better, I thought better than the ones in Gemini and several others. The thing is, sometimes if it's too tight, it can accentuate lid texture, which is a critique held by many, especially if they have a lot of lid texture, where maybe the softer metallics, like what's found in 27, they just have a softer lay down of color and they don't grab the skin like the tighter metallics do. Right? So even though this has more color, this I feel lays down softer. So you kind of have to choose which formula is most appropriate for your lid texture, because again, pigmentation isn't everything. It really all depends on your shadow wearing, your lid texture, and all these different variables will help you decide which shadow you need to buy. Let's take Bella on the inner corner. I know this is a strange combination, and it might not show up as a highlight on me, but perhaps if you're deeper complected, it could. It'll show up peachier, but you know, why not? It's a strange combination, but I like it. It's not terrible. Now for this side, I'm gonna start with Gemelas on the outer first. Gonna tap it on there and then bring it in towards the crease. That color by itself is gorgeous. Just want to put it out there. I didn't do Lovesick yet, so I'm going to place Lovesick on the outer part of the lash line, but more as a chunky wing liner moment. Like that, with a bit more cleanup, like that. Now, Almond Eyes on the lid. Let's see what that does. I'm gonna tappity tap tap, make sure it's as even as possible. Okay, this isn't bad. So definitely has like an antique feel to it, you know? And applying the matte in this fashion, you know, not terrible either. It's pretty even, especially if you take your time patting down the color. I like it. It's different. It's different. I'm not entirely sure how often I would combine the rose wine tones with the mossy green ones, but it's nice to just experiment, because you really never know until you try. And then we can apply Schmood on the inner lower lash line here. And again, don't know what to put on the inner corner. I could dip into Gemini again. Why not, since it's already here? Or I can do Goals, because Goals has a brighter finish than Mateo. So this will be a more appropriate route to go if I needed a highlight shade. Okay, very earthy indeed. In fact, you know what? I'm foregoing the Bella plan and I'm putting on gold here as well. I tried it. It was okay. Wasn't crazy about it. So, and actually a nice transition into the deeper, more antique mossy green. Goals having a little more brightness there, I think was a good move. It's a good move. Just doing a little cleanup here, because it got a little crazy, but that's okay. All right, let's slap on some lashes and I'll be right back. And here are the final looks from round 2. Overall, I enjoy Gemini 2. Although I feel it tricky to combine the rose tones with the greens because the green tones are very strong, but maybe it's because I'm not the most creative right now. My brain's kind of fried, and maybe if I think on it, I can figure out ways how to combine the rose and the green tones. Maybe you don't have to. Maybe you just keep everything separate. That is a fine way to approach the palette. I will say the Almond Eyes matte does need a little more blending than the more rose tone mattes. Those are smoother, and from what I've seen across the board, rosy tones, I don't know, maybe the pigments are softer, or they have a little more zhuzh to them than the green pigments. Maybe they're drier. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not too keen on the formulation depending on the shade, but I think that is something people encountered with Gemini number 1 with these mossy tones. These were fine. I believe that the mustardy, more neutral browns were smoother than the greens, but again, I would use a stiffer brush, something that is still soft, so you can get the color successfully across the crease without looking skipped or uneven. The metallics are pretty good. They're not the shiniest, but they are creamier than the ones found in Gemini 1 and 27. I would wet them if you want a more consistent lay down, so it doesn't look not spotty, but the presentation of that burnished shimmer or that burnished shine, depending on your lid texture and what brush you use, I think it will be better overall if it applied wet, or you lay down a new layer of primer, apply the metallics on top of that, and maybe that will be a better outcome. I'm very happy I bought the palette, and I'm happy that I bought Gemini 1 again. I mean, the packaging compared to the first release, this is lovely, but this is this is outstanding. I think it was wise for them to update the packaging for the new Gemini, and these together, I think, wonderful. In fact, perhaps we can get back on here and combine the rose tones with the more mustard tones. I think that'll be an interesting combination, and perhaps mix the mossy tones with the greens in Gemini 1. So let me know if you want to see that video down below, diving back into Gemini 1 and 2, mix matching them both, especially if you bought both. Why not? We gotta use all the eyeshadow, okay? Let me know if you picked up Gemini 2. How have you been enjoying it? If you haven't been enjoying it, all your thoughts down below. I'll see you down in those comments. And until then, fam, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, or maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you on here again with another review tutorial, Milk Cosmetics palette extravaganza, monthly favorites, or vlog. Take care, and I will see you again soon.